We want to bring in now our next guest. He took moderate Republican senators to the Bureau of the Debt today. So let me welcome Congressman Mark Kirk. He is a Republican from Illinois. But first, Congressman, you know, we've been listening to Secretary Geithner's testimony there before the Senate Banking Committee. Did you get a chance to listen to some of it, and what's your reaction?
I did, and reaction doesn't look good. We've seen the market fall pretty severely on a day in which Secretary Geithner rolled out his plan and in which the Senate passed the stimulus. So it's a vote of no confidence coming from the markets on the plans moving through Congress so far.
Hey, Senator, I'm just trying to throw this around all day long on some of these shows, and all I see is senators and congresspeople on TV saying how much they hate doing this, and the fact that there's $800 billion or $838 billion that they have to pass. It gets bigger and bigger, and they continue to pass it. What about taking a step back? What about cutting it back? I mean, obviously this is water under the bridge, but man, there's no confidence being emanating from Washington. How do you expect us to have confidence?
That's right. I am for a skinny stimulus bill, heavily backing infrastructure and highways, roads, rail, and airports. When you look at the $800 billion stimulus bill, of the 152 programs in the bill, only 11 actually generate significant numbers of jobs. Those 11 programs cost just $65 billion and would put 2 million Americans to work. That's the kind of bill that would be strongly backed overwhelmingly in House and Senate. But instead, I think in the conference between House and Senate, we're actually going to get a more expensive bill.
Representative Kirk, and on that note, if it's going to be, whether it's $500 billion or $800 billion or $1 trillion, what about that principle itself that Eric was just hitting on? If we believe in free markets and we believe that actually profit motive capital is what drives prosperity, then don't we need to make a stand right here, right now, for that very principle?
I don't think that the Congress or the President can suspend the laws of economic force here. And we could even spend, like we saw with the TARP, $700 billion and have little impact. I'm also worried about the overall debt. When Congress passes this bill, it will take up another spending bill, a $400 billion omnibus appropriation with 4,000 earmarks in it, and then following that, a $100 billion supplemental. Add it all up, it will force the Bureau of the Debt to auction $2.6 trillion in U.S. debt.
Oh, my God.
5 times more federal paper hitting the market than ever in our history.
That's a whole lot of money. Congressman Kirk, I want to bring back in Lynn Tilton. She's here with us as well. Lynn, okay, so it's done. The stimulus has passed. They're basically, the House and Senate going to go and work things out. The president's going to sign it. TARP 2, it's done. You know, they've already approved the money. The secretary says we're going to do this with it. What happens now? What's this with this private-public fund? They still haven't made the announcement of what they're going to do for housing, but with this private-public fund to deal with the toxic bank assets, what happens?
I think now the markets are disappointed that they're...
Congressman, hold on a second. Go ahead, Lynn.
I mean, we haven't seen the details yet, so I can only give you the details that I would put forth. And I've actually created 2 bad banks over the years for Fleet Bank, Boston, and CIBC. So what I would see going forth is you get private investors to price these assets and put up, let's say, 10% of the equity. You then fund 90% with low-cost capital from the government. With welfare money, low-cost welfare money.
Just give me that one, Coach.
Okay? And then what you do is you actually have to monetize these assets, but you have to split the upside, because otherwise it has to be a winning proposition. Otherwise, you're never going to get it done. The banks have to think that they're going to have schmuck insurance, so they're going to have some upside, so if they sell too cheap. And frankly, you've got to give the taxpayer some of the upside for taking all the risk.
Well, so, Congressman, what about that? The taxpayer seems to have lost somewhere around, I think the Congressional Oversight Panel said $78 billion of the $250 billion they spent, you know, in that TARP 1. Where's the oversight? Where's the guarantee that the next 350 of TARP is going to be spent wisely, not just on a website telling us where you spent it, but, you know, whether it was spent wisely, whether we're overpaying for some of these toxic assets that Lynn speaks of?
The prospects for heavy oversight by the Congress are low. In the stimulus bill, there are 2 oversight boards, but all of the appointees will work for the president. There's not a single bipartisan member of either board. In the past, we've seen that such president-only boards add very little value added to any kind of oversight. We also have requirements in the stimulus bill for discretionary amounts to be spent within 60 days, formula amounts to be spent within 90. So this is going to be the fastest federal spending on history, and that means very low accountability.
So, and how about that? That's where I continually freak out. We are taking $1 trillion, and you can use a multiplier effect if you want, but we're taking $1 trillion of what used to be profit-seeking capital out of the private marketplace and running it through Washington, D.C. How can that possibly stimulate and or save these $600,000 a month jobs you're worried about?
Well, first of all, I think it should be profit-oriented capital. Why? Just because we're using government money does it have to be spent?
Because by definition, the government is political and not profit-driven.
Well, except that then you put it in the hands of people who actually will create profit for the taxpayer. I mean, no oversight, that's not going to go over well, right? I mean, we've had no oversight, and that's what's led us to the point.
But then are you talking about institutionalizing the system of always socializing the losses and allowing the profits to be kept in the private hands?
Look, we're in a state of emergency. The question becomes, do you want to let unemployment go to 18%? Do you want to let all our banking institutions fail? And do you want to crawl out of this abyss over 20 years? I mean,
then
that's
hang on
really
a second. Let us thank Congressman Mark Kirk. Thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour. We want to get back at, you're welcome.